people that understand the language of music. This is not, I repeat, this is not, for this shackled brain, not to sell or be sold, just enjoyed.
Welcome, 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 welcome. You're here now, visiting, listening to Black Intelligent Minds United Radio, BIMU Radio. I'm your host, Life Jerule, and I got my brother.
Peace, it's the God Jerule right here.
Yeah, so we here once again, man, to bring it to you raw and real. We got a lot in store for you today. We have a serious guest on deck that's going to share a lot of insightful things that's going to enhance your mind and also enhance, hopefully, your music career. So, Jerule, what's been happening, man? How you been?
Man, everything good. Just been, on the grind.
All right.
You know what I mean? But,
as we say.
You know, in the midst of that, there's been some good music coming out. Actually was listening to Sci-Hi the Prince new album.
How's that?
It's fairly decent.
Yeah.
He definitely used a lot of samples, which I'm partial to, of course, you know, in the production.
All right.
That's a good album. And another album came out by an artist by the name of GQ from Oakland. And
Oakland.
Yeah, he's with Jam Loud Records.
Okay.
You know how I feel about Ninth Wonder and them. So
yeah, right.
Another great album. So
all right.
you know, just on the move. You know.
All right.
What about you? What's been going on?
Well, man,
too?
you know, this year, and I say this year meaning today, a lot has happened. You know, I just turned 51, as we know. My fraternity had the 106th anniversary. Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Rule out to the good bros. You know who you are. And you know, just doing a lot of soul searching, man. You know, as you know, today's mathematics is self or savior. And so again, in terms of independence, we now know that we can't rely on nobody for nothing. We got to do everything on our own, provided that we have a plan. But other than that, man, I've just been, you know, really focused, man, and striving to, you know, make it happen, you know what I mean? And bring this new raw music to the people and bring some great guests like we have today. Great friend, great brother, man, doing great things. And yeah, that's it, man. Just ready to make it happen, man, for the listeners out there, you know? So without further ado, as we always do, we want to play, you know, some music first before we get into our guests. And the first cut is going to be Children of the City by Aaron Abernathy. Then we go into as well Leo Lissette named Leap, which is the name of the cut, and then Ivan Avenue called The Circle. Once again, you're here listening to BIMU Radio. Tune in and plug into your frequency. Peace.
I mean, that's why when someone asks me about violence, I just find it incredible. Because what it means is that the person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through, what black people have experienced in this country since the time the first black person was kidnapped from the shores of Africa.
When they're falling into vision, till make big decision that lead to massive collision. All because they're not conditioned on how to play this game. And for years it remained the same. Yeah. Know that it's a shame, that they treat black human beings this way. So I fall on my knees and pray, 'cause I know lost souls trying to find a way. For the Lord brings a judgment day, and these political crooks and Pharisees with dirty lips to slay. I hope we're all trying to find a way to shuffle all the cards that we've been dealt and play. I hope the Lord hears my prayer today and remembers the children of the city. Lord, don't let me backslide On the east side of Cleveland, we ride the thugs in harmony. Me and Scott Mescovy used to listen to Tribe, pushing my daddy's ride. Son of Larry's alive, and he's breathing. Yeah, I'm still here, I'm still Cleveland. Messenger for my people. You know the people, the victims, the system, the evil. And it's been going on for centuries. That white supremacy, that no equality. That store clerk in the store that follows me, along with police brutality. And we're fed up, and all lives matters is set up. Just like our schools with dated books, produced crooks that played hooky. And now they out to get your daughter's goodies. Y'all know the system failed them. Wouldn't excel them, they'd rather break them down in jail, sell them. And I know, lost souls trying to find a way. For the Lord brings the judgment day. And these political crooks and Pharisees with dirty looks are slain. And I hope we're all trying to make a way. We shuffle all the cards that we've been dealt to play. I hope the Lord hears my prayer today and remembers the children of the city.
To me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world. Black people. I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them, and I will do it by whatever means necessary.
Black king, you better wear your crown, yeah. Black queen, please know I worship the ground that you walk on. Don't let the man get you down. No, black people never got to cry. Yeah. Lord have mercy. To be young, gifted and black, they can't stop that. No, no. With God on my side, they can't stop it. Yeah. 'Cause I know lost souls trying to find a way. For the Lord brings the judgment day. And these political crooks and Pharisees with dirty looks are slain. And I hope we're all trying to find a way to shuffle all the cards that we've been dealt and play. I hope the Lord hears my prayer today and remembers the children of the city.
Oh, darling, that I wasn't gonna fall in love now. All I think about
Welcome back, ladies and gents out there, all our listeners and viewers. You're back in the inner circle of BIMU Radio. Again, I'm your host, Life Jerule. I got my brother, Jerule, and we get about to spread some news on you and also introduce our guest of honor who's come out his way to spend some time with us, Mr. David Mitchell. Now, before we go into Mr. Mitchell and everything he's doing, let's talk about the news. First thing first, as we all know, we want to say thank you again to Morris Media for being here for us and supporting us in what we're trying to do. And at the same time, we heard that Swiss Beats graduated from Harvard University. Yeah. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's really good because I think one of the problems for me when I went to school was that I didn't really know what I wanted to do at 18 years old. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it almost to me is like the perfect approach because Swiss obviously became a producer. That's what he loved to do.
Right.
As he's growing up, now he knows exactly what he wants to do. So let me go back to college, learn a little bit more about the business aspect of it. Now I can apply that knowledge to what I'm already doing.
And Harvard, no less, which brings him, opens up a whole new opportunity situation for him, Alicia, his wife, and maybe others who's associated with him. So all you independent artists out there, don't think that because you got some knowledge that's it. Right. You got to get more knowledge. And, of course, our guest, Dave, is going to talk about that in just a second. More news. Russell Simmons and Brett Ratner accused for sexual misconduct. Russell Simmons, mind you, the yoga master, who was my boss a long time ago at Rush. So what's your thoughts on that?
You know what? It seems like it's it's hunting season for this. Everywhere you turn, it's a new person popping up. I'm not surprised, but I don't know how much of it's an actual fact. But I'll ask you, based on your time around him, did you see any type of,
Well, let's be honest. The music business brings sexual relations. Let's just call it for what it is. I mean, you got the groupie guys, the groupie girls, and the groupies, right? Three different situation groups, but it does happen.
Yeah.
A lot of it happens because, you're a celebrity, and I had a moment with the celebrity. I've never seen Russell in my time of knowing him get involved with anything. I've only seen him in business mode. But what he does behind closed doors, of course, is nobody's business but his own. But like I said, it happens, and now a lot of stuff is starting to come out. Hollywood moguls to music moguls now to maybe executives across the way. And it's sad, but it's true, and there's something that's got to be done about it, though.
Well, you see it in politics, too.
Right.
There right now, it seems to be a movement of bringing a lot of high-powered men down.
Yeah. I wonder why that is. I wonder what's going on with that.
Well, the conversation is long overdue. It should have been had a long time ago. But I think with social media and then the Me Too hashtag, I mean, it's coming down in ways we've never ever seen before. It was funny. I was talking to some brothers last week about this, and they said, "Man, the music industry is next to feel the pinch," and. I know L.A. Reid. That was one of the first ones we heard
that
about
was heavy. That was heavy when I heard that. I didn't
African Bambaataa.
Yeah, African Bambaataa. But dealing with boys and all this other stuff. I mean, it's unfortunate that people bring their personal life into their business life, and it becomes a very, very awkward situation to deal with. But nevertheless, it's here. But anyway, I want to go more on the news, but with the fact that we're on this subject about the music business, I want to, definitely give a big round of applause to Mr. David Mitchell from Music Industry Quarterly. And I've been knowing this brother for over 20-something years. He's still doing his thing. And so welcome to the show,
Thank
David.
you. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So we wanted to have you on the show because, like I said, I've been knowing you for quite some time. And I know that you're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And a lot of people don't really get to see who is behind the scenes of the music industry. Now, I used to be behind the scenes. My partner, my right hand, my brother is behind the scenes. Yeah, well, kind of, sort of. But you have this magazine that's out for all those that want to get it, fall edition, make sure you pick it up. So let's talk about what got you first. Let's talk about your beginnings. What started you in the business? What got you?
It was my 31st year in the business.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you. I wanted to be an artist. I mean, back in the 80s, I wanted to be a singer songwriter, kind of in the vein
what type of music?
Kind of in the vein of a Stevie Wonder.
Is that right?
Maybe a Lionel Richie, Billy Joel, Elton John. That's took years of piano lessons. Was writing songs. I didn't know how to get in. And I started working for the Warehouse Records. I think that's where we first met. That was in the mid-'80s through the early '90s. The primary store I worked at on La Brea and Rodeo over there, it's I think like a 99-cent clothing store.
In the jungle, just in case you don't know.
Right, here in Los Angeles. I mean, this podcast is international. Unfortunately had burned down during the civil unrest, the Rodney King riots. And so after that, I was kind of in a flux, and I got the call from Urban Network.
I've been knowing you for that long?
Yeah.
Damn, man, time is moving.
So I joined there in '86. The riots were in '92. '93, I ended up at Urban Network.
Wow, right.
And which is a music trade magazine, or which was a music trade magazine, and it's just a digital magazine now called Urban Network Digital. And I was there through various iterations of Urban Network. And we had the big conferences that everyone would come out to.
Yeah. You just had one recently, not too long ago, no?
Yeah, we had one here in Los Angeles. We were in San Diego the last 3 years, and we brought it back to L.A. But in our heyday, we were in Palm Springs for about 12 years.
Oh, yeah. Those are the days.
Yeah.
Not that they're not the days now, because I used to go to them all the time. But
exactly.
Palm Springs was definitely the spot.
But in 2009, Urban Network kind of hit a wall, and I started my own thing. It was called Amalgamation. I don't know what prompted me to use this $20 word, meaning amalgamation, meaning a blend of many different things.
That's all.
Yeah. When I was starting to see folks struggle with the word, even 4 or 5 years later, I said, no, it was called Amalgamation and Industry Quarterly. So I said, just call it Music Industry Quarterly.
No, that's a smart move.
And it was a smarter move. We've been around in that particular iteration now, going on 3 years. MIQ for short. And it's a trade magazine with some consumer enthusiasts supporting it as well. I mean, that support usually comes in the online form.
Sure.
But we print up about 2,000 to 3,000 copies, and they go to mostly industry heads, DJs, record labels, publishers, managers.
So you send it digitally or manually, like I received mine?
The 2,000 to 3,000 go to throughout the mail.
Okay.
I mean, they're on the mailing list.
Okay.
And sometimes we'll have them at events and so forth. But, the e-blast, people can go online. They can see stuff on social media. Right. So that's a big part of what we do as well.
So in terms of the music industry quality, what does it actually cover? Does it cover, say, folks like yourself, executives, or is it
It's a very urban-focused magazine.
Okay.
So folks like you guys, DJs, podcast managers, publishers, record label execs, artists.
So everybody, we're gonna get a story in here.
That is not a problem. That is already that came implied when you asked me to be here.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
But we've known each other a long time, so we work together here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you have any questions for the brand? Of course, you got a ton of them because I told him we got a ton of questions for
definitely. Listening to your story, I think one of the most interesting parts of it was your ability to be almost like a chameleon and change with the times. Where do you think that trait came from? You know what I mean?
Well, I love music, and I mean it's my passion. It's my first love, and I always wanted to be in it somehow. And I think we were talking earlier about being behind the scenes. And, unless you're like a Beyonce or a Usher, it's hard. Those guys have had 20-plus year careers. If you think back about it, they've been around for a long time. And then I mentioned people like Stevie Wonder, who've had 50-year careers. It's very few artists sustain that type of tenure in the business.
Yeah, definitely.
But I just felt that, okay, I'm behind the scenes. This is doing well for me. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I just wanted to continue it. And building something is a lot more. I had those were jobs back then. Now, this is mine. It's my own baby. I have to hire, fire, raise money. Raising money, that's very difficult. That's not easy.
Yeah.
I still got to be out there going to events and so forth, shaking hands, pressing the flesh, being political.
Yeah.
And there's so many more people out there doing it. Used to be, it would just be a handful of us, with the power of the pen. It might be Billboard or R&R. But now everybody and their mother's got, a blog or an online music site or a zillion followers. So
what they call it, subscription-based streams that you got to pay for now.
Yeah.
All right, well, go ahead, bro.
So in the midst of what you just said, in terms of there's so many different outlets now, how do you remain relevant in the midst of that?
Well, the great thing is, someone said to me, Dave, you kind of lost your young legs many years ago. And I said, yeah, you're right. Had I been in my 20s coming along today, it would be different for me. I mean, I would just fit right into the whole social media, digital media world. But the one thing that I have is I've got relationships, 30 years of relationships that I've built. So I can call an executive and say, hey, can you support what we're doing this month or this quarter? Or, we're still putting on conferences. Hey, can you, buy an ad, be a sponsor, be a speaker, and my phone calls get returned. And that took years to foster and nurture that.
Trust me, when a phone call gets returned in this game, not only do you should be thankful, you should be really grateful because certain calls never get returned, even with relationships, which is the real ironic thing. You mentioned relationships, and that's the key. But if your relationship is not based upon sincerity, and it's just based upon where you work today, what I can do for you, it probably won't last too long.
And another thing you've got today is a lot of social media relationships. They're not real deeply rooted relationships
with time spent and breaking bread and doing things and
exactly.
That's a very important point that you put out.
Being that you mentioned social media, how do you feel the artist, whether they're independent or not, how do you feel that could benefit them in this day and time versus maybe not actually be as beneficial?
Well, social media, I mean, it's a necessary good and it's a necessary evil. I mean, for all the great things that it does, exposing artists and personalities to people around the world. I mean, I'm noticing even artists that would have been kind of contained in a particular genre, they're now reaching people of all races and colors. I was at a Bryson Tiller show, and typically Bryson would have been just a black artist. Just coming, you would look in the audience and it would just be mostly black folks. But I'm looking in the line and I'm seeing Asians and I'm seeing Latinos, I'm seeing black folks, white folks. And this was an artist that just broke, barely 2 years ago. So it's amazing. I was at a SZA show recently and it was the same thing. So I think, social media has allowed us to just reach people that we never would have reached before. And we're not being pigeonholed now
into one area of concentration.
Exactly. But then there's the flip side, all the, you use the word controversy, conflicts, untruths, some fake news, some fake news,
Right.
And people seem to thrive in this bastion of negativity today, I mean, with reality shows and how you have to act a fool now to get noticed.
And all craziness.
Well, I didn't want to mention any names.
Yeah,
but,
like I said, you could be yourself here. We're going to mention all the names, but everybody.
But it's like you look at one of the hottest artists out right now, Cardi B, who comes from that culture, and I can't argue with it. That's, that's.
But and I know it's going to be short-lived, right?
I don't want to put that in the universe, I hope she has more success, But I've said, let's give these artists their time to go out and prove what they can do.
Again, I'm not taking nothing from Cardi B. I mean, again, it is what it is, but because of my experience and those one-hit wonders, you come and you go, the revolving door, right? The key, as you said, is the relationships that you have. Artists come and go every single day, but those executives like yourself, myself, and Jerule, and maybe others who are striving to ensure that the foundation is strong enough so that we can do things like this is a critical, important piece. Yeah. All right, well, we're going to get back to some music, and we're going to get back to David Mitchell because he has a lot more to share with you independent artists out there. And so we're going to go into another 3 artists. So I'll let my brother go ahead and introduce these next 3, and then we're going to come back to David Mitchell here at BIMU Radio.
Yeah, the first one is by Lexus. It's called Nostalgia, or it's off of the album Nostalgia, and the song is called Blow My Mind. Then the next one will be A.B. Kiss Ya, and that's produced by Black Milk, one of my favorites, and Rashawn Patterson, Forever My Darling.
BIMU Radio, y'all. Peace.
You may think I'm losing my mind. I just think that I'm not confined. All the things we do are straight contain time. So I'm thinking real, baby. Climbing my way on top's my favorite. Looking down and seeing your smiling face, baby. These words, I'm so speechless, I can't say it. Boy, you got me so hooked, I'm amazed. Feelings are deep, emotions are stronger. Boy, you're telling me you can't hold this back no longer. So I'm willing to take, to feel, to love your embrace. Bless me to outer space, so good I can taste. Seeing the sunrise through the waterfall. dance like you in ecstasy.
Something special, yeah. Always on my, and the season's ending. Seems like it just began. But I don't mind lending my heart to you and sharing moments. You're more than just a friend, yeah. And I got those diamonds to get you. Me, girl, to fit you. Just wanna kiss you. Oh, diamonds to get you. Me, girl, to fit you. Just wanna kiss you. Oh.
Can't believe that motherfucker got me. Soaked me up in the possibility of some thickness. Feels like insanity. I mean that I would willingly pass vulnerable boiling points and insatiable loneliness just to hug his charming core. That's why I pay attention, and I know who laid inside me. I got visions of majesty in his eyes. toxic talks and mind fucks. I'll do whatever, I'll do forever, and just figure that shit out. Intentions set it clear, and no insecure moment in time would trump our sweetest year. My dear, love ain't big enough to capture this here.
Welcome back. This is Life here at BIMU Radio, and we're back now with some more news, and back with David Mitchell from Music Industry Quarterly. And so we was talking about the news, and we was talking about Steve Stout raised $70 million to put together a new company called United Masters. And the idea is, what is that about, David? What is United Masters about?
I mean, this is just a new announcement, but it seems like what the platform they're creating is kind of a marriage between advertising platforms and music platforms, and helping artists get their music further promoted on like online music stores like Spotify and Tidal. Excuse me. I was about to merge the two together. I may be,
that may be a deal in the making. Be careful. Get a piece of that action if you can.
Exactly. So it sounds like there's possibly some licensing opportunities that are going to be available. From what I understand, though, artists will pay United Masters to have their music serviced through those platforms, and then they'll have access, I guess, to a myriad of services that Stout and his company Translation provide.
Wow, not a bad situation. Speaking about Steve Stout, we got Nipsey Hussle, who made $1 million off of TuneCore, which is a company that helps artists get their music through iTunes without the label's assistance. So I guess labels are now becoming, somewhat obsolete to the idea of growth and development. What's your take on that, David?
Well, there are a number of companies out there. I was looking at TuneGo and you said TuneCore that are able to help artists get their music up on some of these internet platforms, mobile platforms. That's a good way for them, again, to get access to licensing, getting their music on the hierarchy of some of these social media so they're not getting buried in the millions of other people that are on there. I mean, I see that's where we're going today. That's where we are.
So is that the new music as far as
I think that
tech?
Is a part of the new model.
Really?
But go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that most of these artists are going to be becoming artificially modified artists, and they are now the content as opposed to, so music tech is now the new industry. What is your take on that, and how does that impact your magazine?
Well, that's 2 to 3 different questions.
Well,
I want to ask it answer it from an artist perspective.
Yeah.
Today, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a record label deal anymore, and nor do I believe you have to have one. A lot of artists are avoiding them. Some are still interested in them. So I think these other kind of platforms where they can put their music up there and use the resources of these other online digital companies to help you further your music, I think that's a way to go. We're in a streaming world now. We're not in a sales world. So I think to get your music streamed to as high as you can, and you're going to be sharing in those revenues. But hopefully those revenues will eventually turn into merchandising. They'll turn into tour opportunities. They'll turn into licensing opportunities.
Alcohol opportunities and clothing and everything else that comes
Absolutely.
on.
But again, and there's lots of those companies out there that are willing to work with artists, but I still say not every artist is going to have access to all that. I think when it comes to music today, and not to discourage artists, but I think that the supply of music far outweighs the demand for it. So,
I agree, 100%.
And still these companies are still going to some degree are going to be kind of gatekeepers, and they're going to be out there vetting, okay, so-and-so's got, 10 million streams going here, so we can do something with that, all opposed to here's a great artist over here, but she or he may only have 15,000 streams, So I still think a lot of it is going to rely on the artists and their insular teams that they create. And we can talk about that a little bit more. And then they can graduate to some of these other platforms.
So one thing that I could say that I guess being a part of a label would help with, based on this news that we're looking at, it says Kendrick Lamar was sued for $1 million for the song Rigor Mortis. And we know the labels a lot of times will take care of paying the artists that were sampled to make the newer music.
Well, normally the sample should have been cleared before the music went out.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's the idea.
Yeah, so I think when this song came out, he was still kind of in that independent trying to find his way still a little bit. So it's kind of interesting to see this.
But
come
what's
back.
even more interesting is that he was listed on the Forbes magazine as a 30 under 30 on the Forbes list.
And then they
now
come
all of a sudden, now all of a sudden, now they hit you with that $1 million, right? So for all you independent artists out there, sometimes silence is golden. You don't need to be on magazines telling everybody how much money you're making to get that type of credibility and notoriety. Sometimes old money and old ways of doing things by staying quiet is probably the best way of staying ahead.
That's true, but I also say,
oh, we got a butt here. What's the rebuttal? Let's go to this debate
when a record
right now.
becomes a hit or it's closely affiliated with a hit, that's when people start sensing there's a possible payday ahead. And I think if you don't, even if you do have something cleared, there may still be other writers that may not have been completely cleared in the process. You know, that's when people come out, when they think there's money to be made. So
kind of like the sexual allegations thing. Everybody's coming out looking for money. Kind of like that.
Well, I don't know if all those people are coming out looking for money. I think some of them are just looking for justice. You know, I think that's a totally different situation. But again, when I talked about the supply of music, there's so much of it out there. And a lot of people are creating music in their basements, you know, in their bedrooms, on their phones. And they don't have the resources, the financial resources to get this music cleared. And they get it and they put it out anyway, you know. And maybe they don't put it on Spotify or Tidal, but maybe it's on a SoundCloud somewhere. And it hasn't been approved. And next thing you look up, you've got, you know, 500,000 hits, you know, and then it grows into something else. And then again, people want their cut to what's coming, you know.
Next question, then, Jerule, you got any more?
Well, you know, I had a question in terms of, you know, this kind of going back, but obviously you've had decades in the business. And so early on, or when you were around artists, what is some of the things that you could say is similar from artists back then to now, and what is vastly different?
Well, one thing I didn't say earlier is that I do media coaching for artists as well. And, you know,
when you say
I've had
media coaching,
where
what does that mean?
Usually a publicist from a label will call me and say, hey, we've got artist A going on the road, or they're going to be doing a bunch of interviews, and they're not quite ready to talk to the public yet, or they're not quite ready to be in this interview on this radio station or on the TV channel or with a particular magazine or what have you. And so what I do is I sit with the artists and we try to coach them, and, you know, or train, but I like to call it media coaching, where we can prep them for it, how long to speak, what to say, how to sit, how to talk, to get rid of the you know what I'm saying, dog? You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
You know,
stuff like that.
Exactly. And, you know, when people want to ask you personal questions, how to deflect these things.
Right.
So it's a big part of what I do. And I've still noticed, whether doing this 10, 15 years ago when I started, or even 20 years ago when my mentors that I know were doing it, or even today, artists still need to know how to speak properly, how to reach the general public, and how to conduct themselves. You know,
professional manner.
And I tell artists all the time, if you're leaving your home and you're going out in the public, you need to look the part. You know, and so that's a big part of it. But I also tell artists who are trying to get on board, I think to what we were leaning to earlier, is you got to build a team. You know, you've got to build a team, you know, that works directly for you. And in doing that, that might be your cousin who's great with the video camera. It may be, you know, the girl that you go to school with and 2 or 3 of her friends that are fans of yours that can help you with social media. You know, it could be, you know, your friend, the limo driver, who can help you get gigs at the places and driving you there, you know.
In style, nevertheless.
Exactly. So you've got to gear up and prep yourself before you start going to these online music companies and before you start going to the record labels. There's things you've got to take care of first. And artists tend to just like, I like being in the studio, you know, and they're putting out all this music and it's great, but sometimes you got to pull away from the studio and do your own personal marketing, your own personal social media and promotion. All that stuff is incredibly important. You know, and you got to have people helping you do it.
We had an artist, our first artist on this show, his name was Prophet. the poet that's introduced us to him. And he was talking about that, making sure that he went back to school so he can learn or do more things, and then make sure that his structure and his foundation, his team is right. So you hit it right on the nail that, definitely have to have a strong team of qualified people. We're not talking about your friend on the neighborhood talking about, your stuff is good. We're talking about people who really understand the business of this industry and know how to get things done. So what else you got there, Jerule? Anything else?
Well, before you do, I even kind of want to backpedal on that.
Okay.
Because I mean, that's if you're trying to get a major label deal right away.
Right.
But, I mean, these labels don't care until they know what your social media is. They don't care until they know
you got on YouTube.
Exactly. They want to know the metrics. And those metrics are typically grassroots efforts that you and your homies and your girl up the street and, somebody that that can help you do some of the basic things that you need.
Right.
Now, listen, if you've got some relationships in the business. I'm looking at Khalid here. Oh, Khalid grew up in my neighborhood. We boys, and he's going to help me out. Well, then that's different. Then you're going to come in a little bit further ahead than somebody that's just starting completely from scratch.
Yeah, definitely. Good point.
So if I'm starting completely from scratch, I may have to tap into my friends, hey, man, you really a great photographer. Can you shoot some photos of me? Hey, I got this dope music here. Let's send it to my girl. I know she signed at ASCAP over there, and she's got some great music. Let's hook up and see if we can collaborate together. So I think it's definitely a much more collaborative grassroots effort in the very beginning, and then you have to evolve. There's no overnight sensations to this anymore.
It really is a process now.
Right. And again, I bring up the Cardi B thing. She may be young, but she's been at this for a minute. These things just don't happen in a flash.
It didn't just pop up today and now she's an international star. She definitely went through her growing pains.
Absolutely.
Blood, sweat, and tears. So what else you got there, Jerule, before we head on out of this particular episode?
I mean, we got time, right?
We got about another 10 minutes.
Yeah, so you mentioned media coaching, right? So what would that, like a particular media coaching session, let's, obviously bring the time down, but what would that look like? Say if I'm an artist, I'm coming to you, I want some media coaching. How would you start?
Well, it typically depends on what kind of budget you have.
See, so right there, ladies and gentlemen, you got to bring something to the table so we can all eat.
Right. Typically, when it's a major label, and if they're coming to me, let's say, hey, Dave, we have $1,500. We need you to work with the artist. Yeah. And there's certain things that I do. I'm not an etiquette coach. I don't teach artists how to walk and those types of things.
How to set a table at dinner.
And you might get some of that. There's also some life coaching to it. But, there are people that, you can bring in a stylist that will teach you how to manage your hair and makeup. And that's a different thing. What I try to prep them for is to go out and how to speak and present themselves. I don't do stage management, how to hold your mic and, how to dance and all that stuff. Media coaching is basically to help artists learn how to interact and deal with the media. It's usually a 2-day session.
Perspective in terms of
how to conduct themselves in interviews, meet and greets,
negotiations, all that.
That's usually an attorney type of situation.
But still, like say you meet artist meet somebody, they're out there, they're doing things, and you want to know how to interface with them in the right type of way.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how to shake somebody's hand.
Yeah, firm handshake, look them in the eye, that type of thing.
You're 20 and you're meeting somebody 60. You don't want to just yo, how's it going, Holmes? You don't want to talk to them.
Mom? What up, B?
What up, Mom? We don't want to.
What's going down, B? You know what I mean? You feeling me? And that 60-year-old's looking at you like, yo, what is he talking about? What up, B? Who's B?
But that 60-year-old may be, the gate, or that 50-year-old may be the gatekeeper from you getting rotation at their radio station. All of a sudden you're getting 50 spins a week. That can make a difference. So we try to teach those things, from simple things to carrying breath mints to, having clean fingernails, just little things,
Getting
when you
groomed is what he's talking about.
We're talking about, grooming. And I mean, it could be any number of things, whether to look in the camera or not, or to look at you.
Right.
there's just a number of things that we teach. And there's also life coaching in there, about being on time, prepping yourself, knowing what kind of interview you're going into. Yeah. What's the significance of this interview? Who am I coming to speak to? Am I coming to speaking to some small blogger, or am I coming to speaking to somebody that's, at KJLH, a local radio station here in Los Angeles?
Right, definitely.
So there's, and then, like I said, there's life coaching in there too.
So if an artist or any artist out there who's listening, how do we get in contact with David Mitchell? How do we get involved with David Mitchell? What is the steps and procedures that they can get involved with you for the mentoring and the life coaching and the media and all that stuff? How do they get involved?
Well, the easiest way, I say, I got Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but the easiest way is just email me, David M. at musicindustryquarterly.com. I know that sounds long, but it's easy. David M. at musicindustryquarterly.com.
All right. Well, listen, go ahead, Jerule.
No, I mean, he covered a lot today.
Yeah.
You might have to get him on another show.
This may be a part two with David Mitchell, right? But I think what he said, man, was just right on point, man. Everything we've been saying up to this point, man, it's just hit home. In terms of the artists and the branding and the professionalism. And again, these artists out here, sometimes you can't get lazy, right? You cannot get lazy. I don't care if you selling millions. Act like you selling nothing. Stay thirsty, my friends. Yeah. You got to stay thirsty, right?
And nobody can want it more than you.
Exactly.
Nobody can want it more
than you. Say that again, please.
Nobody can want it more than you. I mean, I've seen artists, I need a manager. And, people bring in managers, because they need someone who can do what they can't or what they won't do.
Right, exactly.
But I see so many artists, all they want to do is just make music. And I'm like, dude, you got to get out here and do these interviews. You got to be on your social media. You got to do a lot of these other things. Let's find some performances for you. There's so much to do to try to crack open this business. And the thing is, it's so many people want to be in it. It's not something you go and apply for. Most artists don't go and get interviewed for it or go to school for it. So it's a lot of luck, a lot of breaks.
A lot of relations, a lot of handshakes, and a lot of work. This is a 25-hour-a-day industry, not 24. 25, that means you got to go the extra hour, the extra mile, and you got to wake up early to do what you got to do. You know what I mean? So that brings us to the close of episode 4, Self of Savior, with our special guest, David Mitchell. We want to thank him for coming out. Music Industry Quality. Check out his magazine. He already told you how to get in contact with him, all you independent artists out there. Go and find the professionals that can really make it happen for you. You don't have to do it by yourself, but you can build your team. So this is Life, Black Intelligent Minds United Radio. We're getting going to our last 2 cuts, Alpha Miss. And man, this Alpha Miss dude is really hot. And then, of course, we have a last cut called Die Empty. It's kind of deep, kind of heavy. So tune in, plug into your frequency. BIMU Radio, y'all. Peace.
Peace.
After everything that we gave, see all we sacrificed and the love we made. Well, tell me, is this pain or love? The clouds open up and it pretty much rained on us. And me and you, there ain't no trust. I think we need a minute to reflect. Give us a moment to reconnect. We're falling out of love or something to that effect. When it's good, it goes bad. When you're happy, I'm sad. Worst pain I ever had. Don't go, no, please don't. No, don't go, no. Please don't, no. Please don't, We can't let our love simply fade away. See, when we get up, we fall down again. Seems the glare is blinding. Having trouble rewinding. Having trouble just finding love. I guess that's why we're fighting. I think we need a minute to reflect. Give us some more.
everybody wants a guarantee. Everybody wants a guarantee. There's songs that you have no idea how they became the biggest song in the world. And there are songs that you like, this is the greatest song I ever heard, and nobody cares about it. The music industry, everybody wants to be second. Everybody wants to be second. Because nobody has the balls to create what's going to be first. When the person does it, you're the first person to say, we need something like. Everybody wants to be second. Ain't nobody trying to be innovative in something. You know, that's why it's the kid in the garage who sneaks out with something that becomes the big thing that everybody runs to do the second. Do it and be second. You will never put out all of the music that you make in your lifetime. So this is what you need to do. Sell some, get the rest away. Die empty. Die empty. Don't die with shit creatively inside of you. Die empty. I want to absolutely blow everybody's mind at what was created in a week. Like, a big part of this is I am trying to dispel every industry rumor that has ever been there, that everybody who's worked with a record company has heard that it takes 9 months and it takes this and it takes this. My whole shit is take the playbook, take all of this shit out, you put creative people in the room and I'm gonna show you what can happen. So basically what I'm trying to do is tell the industry, get the fuck out of our way. Stop acting like you know more about what people want than we do.
He's going to deliver the benediction. If all hearts and minds are ready.